Hello, I'm Sean Kent Hayashi with the Professional Development Group. I'm an executive coach. I help organizations build high-performing teams and inspiring leaders. One of the competencies that we all need in order to be a professional in workplaces today is the skill of emotional intelligence. I'm getting ready to kick off a workshop on this topic for a high-performing team. You can see we're just about to kick off. Getting ready. Come along. Imagine the difference in you, between you coming into a conversation while you're in the marinade of hope. What do you do? What are the words, the phrases, the way you approach the conversation? Versus at another time, coming into a conversation when you're in the emotional marinade of fear. Can you describe the differences between those two? Can you see what it looks like? See, if you can do that for each of the 7 core emotions, and if you can intentionally trigger yourself into the emotion that would serve you best now, you're learning how to process yourself through. When we label an emotion in a positive way, when we're appreciative of the emotion that we're feeling, we create new ideas, creativity, a decreased heart rate, a stable focus in our mind. We're able to concentrate. We have relaxed muscles, better sleep, better digestion. We feel better all around. When we start to label emotions and say, I'm glad I'm feeling this, this is what happens. However, when we label an emotion as it's limiting us, when we say, I don't want to feel that emotion, and we stuff it down, we pretend it's not there, we sweep it under the carpet, we create all kinds of problems in our bodies. Stomach aches, headaches, shoulder pain, back pain. All of this is linked to unprocessed emotions. And the mental symptoms that result from us not dealing with, not honoring, or us labeling emotions as being limiting. Procrastination, defensiveness, hostility, bitterness, confusion, checking out, fight or flight, or literally falling asleep in a meeting. Have you ever been in a meeting with someone and they fall asleep? Yes, we all have, right? That's somebody who's checking out for some reason. Again, they may not be aware of it. So once an emotion has gotten triggered into our bodies, the evidence of that chemical marinade is in us for at least 4 hours, unless we know how to process ourselves through it. Now, at this point in a presentation once, a fella in the audience said, wait a minute, Sean, that is not true for me. The last time I got angry, I was angry for a whole lot longer than 4 hours. I was angry for days. I said, well, what happened? I don't want you to get triggered back into the anger, but what time of day was it that the event occurred? It was in the morning. He said, on my way to work. When you got to work, did you by any chance tell anybody about it? Oh, yes, he says. I told everybody about it right away. I said, on your coffee break or somewhere in the mid-morning, did you tell more people about it? You bet I did. I wanted them to know what a dirty, rotten scoundrel that was. And at lunch, did you tell more people? Definitely. And when you got home that evening, I even called some people and told them about what happened. He says, what was he doing? He was re-triggering it. You see, when we tell ourselves stories, when we put ourselves back into an image, when you imagine your grandchild giving you a big hug, when you imagine yourself playing with the puppy, walking on the beach, you are re-triggering the emotional experience. And if you keep retelling yourself stories about how horrible someone is or how annoyed you are with the whatever fill in the blank, right? You're just re-triggering that. So this idea that it takes 4 hours for the emotional chemical marinade to ebb unless we know how to deal with it. So an emotional hijack is a whole lot like what happens when we flood the engine of a car with too much gasoline. Have you ever done that? It's hard to drive, right? Hard to move forward. When we are flooded with too much, we are emotionally hijacked. Have you ever watched one of your favorite athletes, perhaps on the court, on the field, and something happens and they all of a sudden devolve? They're in an emotional hijack and they don't know how to handle it, and it erodes their skills, their abilities, their competencies, right? So developing self-awareness helps you to tune into your emotions and to use them instead to inform your actions rather than having an emotional hijack. Being aware in the moment tees us up to make really good decisions. And when we are aware, we can then begin to self-regulate. But we can't self-regulate if we're not aware. Making sense? Yeah, I appreciate all the nodding going on. This picture happens to be my favorite picture of what it means to self-regulate. What do you notice about this picture? This does not happen by accident, right? You don't get a row of German Shepherd dogs on a sit-stay command with a cat running by accident. What did it take for these German Shepherds to be able to have this level of self-regulation ability? Lots of training and practice, and the same is true of us. These German Shepherds have more self-regulation ability than many teams that I have worked with in the beginning of our work together. Part of what I have to do is teach each person on the team to be able to self-regulate so that they can be a part of creating an outcome like this. Well, how do you do that? I mentioned a few moments ago, once an emotion has triggered in the body, the evidence of it is there for at least 4 hours, unless we know how to process ourselves through the emotion, unless we know how to tee the emotion up to inform our actions. Well, how can we do that? One of the best ways we can begin to do this is to create a positive triggers file folder, let's say. What might you put in that positive triggers file folder? Maybe you put a picture of something that has meaning to you. Maybe a client, a customer sent you flowers to thank you for the contribution you made to them. Maybe someone wrote a lovely thank you note to you. Maybe you got a great performance review and a written document about the ways in which you added value to your team. All of those would be great things to put into a file like this. It's a positive triggers file. Can you think of some things that you would put into a folder like that when you touch them, when you look at them, you just feel great? Intentionally using self-regulation enables us to learn from our experiences. One of my clients was a brilliant woman who, as a director in a major pharmaceutical company, had all kinds of competencies, skills, and abilities. But she found herself in a situation where when she knew that she had to present to the board in her organization, she got tight, she clamped up, her stomach just was in knots. Which emotion might this be for her? Fear, exactly. And she didn't know how to overcome the fear. So what we did was we had her create a folder with all sorts of reminders about how competent and capable she is. She also happened to be an auditory learner. And so we created audio files. She saved voicemail messages where people had left her little thank you notes in her voicemail. She saved songs that she knew would inspire her. And right before she went in to present to the board, we had her duck into the ladies' room, take her file with her, play some of that music. She'd get herself into a high emotional state, and then she'd walk into the door of the presentation, and she would be able to stay in that emotional state to deliver her presentation. This is intentionally using self-regulation, and we are then learning from our experiences rather than getting shut down in our experiences. Now, you probably know people who are really good at learning from their experiences. And you probably also know some people who haven't recovered from some of their life experiences. When we haven't recovered from a life experience, that's a red flag waving that something's still stuck. Something needs to be processed. Those of us who learn from our emotional experiences are going to keep growing our emotional intelligence. And those of us who don't, we're going to get stunted, and that stuntedness is going to impact our lives, our careers, our companies, the growth of our organization, the growth of our team, and the growth of our family. What do you want for yourself? The fact that you're here, the fact that you chose to come to a workshop like this says, I want to be the kind of person who keeps learning. So let's keep going. I'm Shawn Kent Hayashi with the Professional Development Group. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you like this video, we'd be delighted to have you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click that subscribe button below, and you'll also see there's a bell. If you click that bell, you'll be notified each time we post a video. If you've enjoyed the content, please give it a thumbs up.